ACC action starts this weekend. So, of course, we're here for a little mid-season review on the latest episode of the Pack Mentality Poppins podcast, episode 146 for those with their notebooks. I'm your co-host, Brian Reinhardt. Still waiting for my other co-host, Trent Hiley, to get back to me about stuff. We'll see. But it's still rocking. But today, got Pat Popolizio in his office.
Yes, Brian, good to see you as always.
I see you turned your phone this episode.
We got it. It's all good. I told you I figured it out.
Yeah, we're still on a phone, so still waiting for a computer donation.
I put a request in.
Okay, that's good. Happy New Year. Are you the type? Do you walk around WB wishing everybody a Happy New Year? I could see you being
we had practice, so yeah, we were here. You know, where you get, I don't know, your government days, you get free holiday in a week, 10 days off.
I heard you actually told me you were on vacation up in Pennsylvania recently. How was your time away?
Good snow. We got about a foot of snow when I was there.
The holiday travels, but back. All right, ACC Duals are starting. This year, the ACC, at least in my opinion, I think it's pretty wide open. There's a lot of schools still have some lineup issues, but there is so much talent, so many young guys that ACC Duals are just going to be great this year.
Yeah, it's Friday nights are going to be back rocking, as you know. No better place to be than watching the ACC Duals on a Friday night.
Pat Popolizio bringing the great analytics of a great question. I guess was that too much of a softball? Do I have to ask you specifically? Talk more about the ACC, please.
Well, whatever you'd like to know about it, we'll have starting this Friday. We'll have some really good knowledge for you.
Okay, that's good. Friday night, UVA in town. A great young team. They have some very athletic lower weight guys that I think are going to challenge your guys. Was it Hamilton still there? I think he went up a weight though, and he's always been a thorn in the pack side. But Virginia, very good team coming down here. Still have a little question marks with their squad too, but this is a good start for you guys.
Definitely, it's always going to be a good duel, and you know it's nice to be back in rhythm with Friday nights and the schedule that we're, accustomed to the way their training's kind of set up. And I know guys are excited for second semester start, but more importantly, get a home duel in Reynolds. And the more in-conference competition we have at home, I know our fan base usually shows out, and Reynolds would be real exciting this Friday.
Little giveaway for some season ticket holders.
Yeah.
A little Vince Robinson bobblehead. Did he provide one to you yet?
I don't have it in here, but yeah, they're in the box. I saw them. They look good.
I'm glad you got one.
I had one. I feel like someone took it off my shelf.
See, they're so popular. People are already stealing them. You know, a couple of years ago, it's a funny story. I know we're getting off track here. Nick Wistowski, a bobblehead day.
Yes.
We were giving random fans. First of all, it was my idea, so I'm still taking full credit for the Nick Wistowski bobblehead.
That was good.
But the funniest thing, you know who the first person in line was for the Nick Wistowski bobblehead?
Who was the first person? You.
No. I got one beforehand.
Yeah, I figured you
Gwiz
from the box.
Gwiz was the first in line to claim a couple of his own bobbleheads.
Good.
I don't know why. I always think that's a great memory of that. But
yeah, that's funny.
But
I still have my Gwiz one right there, though.
Okay. At least no one stole that one.
No.
Okay. Friday night, obviously, great duel. Steve Garland and his club coming down here. Just like you said, it's a lot more consistency now with the second semester where you guys are wrestling every Friday night. How much of a change is that from all the tournaments and all the travel that was going on that first semester?
Yeah, it was, you get in the first semester and you might have a Saturday, a Sunday, back-to-back competition. So it just varies. And then as conferences settle in, usually about this time of the year, everyone starts focusing really on their conference competition. So, Big Ten, I think Friday, Sunday. Obviously with the ACC, we go Friday night, and it just puts it in sync, on a schedule for us, knowing what we're doing during the week, training wise, what days, we get an off day, what days we're doing our lifts. So it gives us a good routine, and I think it gives guys a really good disciplined schedule so they can focus on school and training.
What do you think about the first semester? You kind of established most of your starters, but a lot of backups got action too. We saw you guys at a lot of different events. What did you think about the first semester for your club?
Yeah, it was a little challenging with a couple guys that were out and waiting. We knew Brophy was coming in that semester, so getting in here full time's been really nice to have. And then Isaac being back in the lineup. The positive to that is they got a lot of new guys, some really good experience and opportunities to go out and compete and let them know the things that they got to work on. When you look at Case and Howell, really was in the lineup for the first semester. He's got a notebook of things that he can look back at and realize, all right, these are things I have to improve on. And you got to wrestle really good guys. Sometimes you hit these tournaments in the beginning of the year and you're getting, guys are in the same boat, just gaining good, valuable experience. But when you're in the lineup, especially the schedule we had, that was a pretty tough first semester schedule. So you got to see some of the best guys in the country.
As you mentioned, new addition to your club. We've been talking about him because we were allowed to for a little while. But Patrick Brophy, of course, he faced his old team in the very first duel. I mean, everybody knew that was going to happen.
That was not a planned thing. It just so happened.
I don't know if you got to listen to the last podcast on your vacation, but we had him on. So we got to hear his story. Very interesting. Didn't start wrestling until high school, went to the Citadel, but came here, has gotten some time with Trent over the summer. So kind of what are expectations at 197 now that he's in your room full time?
Well, he's a sponge right now. And anyone that starts later in the game, they're really motivated to learn. And I've seen that from him. He's in that room. He fits right in with the guys, but he's in there, one of the first guys in the room, and he's there after practice every day working on things. And then, he'll be coming in throughout the day, get an hour in, but he's a sponge, absorbing and learning, and he has a lot of room to improve, which is good because he's got a really good feel, and he's a competitor, and he's got some good wins already under his belt from last year, and he's going to have some really good competition coming ahead. So he's only going to get better, and then you have the consistency with some of the guys to train with. I think it's going to fast track him to where he needs to be.
The stat geek in me has to ask, first semester, do any of his matches count for his record this year? How did that work since he wasn't on your roster?
I believe so. I think when you're unattached and then you start wrestling right away, they add to your season record for him.
Because obviously, kind of referring to getting those 15 matches for RPI and all that, and how that will work out. Okay.
I would imagine that that's a guarantee, though. I mean, you're still competing, and
you might want to check on that. But
yeah, we will.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I didn't mean to.
Like when you pull a guy out of red shirt, their matches count.
Okay, I didn't mean to bring it up and not have an answer here.
That guy.
Okay, I am. Other guy you mentioned, Isaac Trumbull, back in your lineup, looking great, competing out there. Any restrictions on the second semester? Do you see him going full on?
Yeah, no, he needs the matches. He's obviously we took our time working our way back in, and it was a hot start for him wrestling two guys that were ranked. So it'll be good for him. We get in conference play. He's pretty familiar with a lot of the guys, and it'd be good getting valuable experience. He was in there this morning working with Gwiz, and he's got great guys to train with. So he's right on track for everything we're looking for, and I know his. All the goals that he has set ahead are very reachable, and he's going to be in a really good spot when postseason hits.
Kind of jumping around, but I know down at 125, I was working on a piece today. The ACC at 125 it's really incredible. It might be the best weight this year, where it was very top heavy, but now there's 4 really great guys. Vince Robinson coming back off his national championship. How have you seen him go in this first semester, knowing that he's a name and everybody's aiming for him?
Well, it's anytime you come off, having success like that, you're going to get everyone's best match. And, last year was a little different as he was making a name for himself. And this year, he's got to be ready to go every match that he wrestles. So doing things right leading up to every week is going to be critical for him, and knowing that, and he's a competitor, so he's ready for those challenges. But he always has a different gear, and the bigger the match, sometimes you get to see it. And I thought when we were on the road at Ohio State in a pretty tough environment, he stepped up his game pretty good against, a guy that's tough to wrestle, and showed that he can wrestle all positions. And I think that's something keeps working towards, is being able to wrestle. Obviously he's really good on his feet, riding on the mat and getting off bottom. And if he does all three of those, it's going to be hard for anyone to beat him.
I know you always talk about you're not sure what freshmen are going to bring if they're thrown in the lineup first year, but Will Denny has really made a name for himself at 165. He's now a known name out there. Tough ACC conference. He's some really good opponents there that will play it out, but how excited are you for Will's second semester here?
Very exciting. I think it worked out good for him. His first couple matches were against high-level guys.
Mm-hmm.
That first weekend out there was not an easy weekend for him. It's not like he had some warm-up tournaments. We threw him right in the mix of things. He showed he's a competitor, and then as time's gone on, he's settled in really well, and I think he's wrestling with a lot of confidence. What he did, the other day, our last try meet we had in that one match, where he cut the kid with like 15 seconds to go to get another takedown. I think that shows the level of maturity that he has and how aggressive he's wrestling. But every single day that we get with him is another day he gets better. And he's going to be in a really good spot here as we hit ACC competition. And like you said, in conference, his will be very competitive. But I like where he's at right now and the growth that he's made and the maturity. And he's young, but he's a leader and a winner right now. So it's a good spot to be for a true freshman.
That was a ranked win that went for a major decision too. So very, very smart to do that.
Against, I want to say, the kid was in the final scuffle.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Okay. Big improvement, freshman to sophomore year. Coy Bizkins at 149. He's really shot up in the rankings. Only took one loss earlier this year. A little controversial loss.
Very controversial.
Can you talk about? I mean, I don't want to get you in trouble, but
there's nothing to get in trouble. I mean, it's and I think that's where we got to get back to an independent reviewer, because we saw it one way, you saw it another way, they saw it this way. But if it's not the person that made the call, maybe it goes the way that someone else saw it, and it's just hard to justify in a situation like that to not be awarded points. But the good news is something he learned from and realizes, you got to secure that takedown and know that you got it before you get aggressive with, going for back points. And I think that's the situation he was in. He thought he had the takedown, and reality wasn't called. And that comes with experience and knowing exactly where you're at. And that's something he gains week to week. But if there's a guy in our lineup, when you look from last year to this year, improvement-wise, he's got it all. He's a very sound, very analytical, very composed. He's got every tool you need to win a national title, and it's not out of reach for him to go win it this year. He's that good, and I know pound for pound in our weight room, he's one of the strongest guys we have. That's a behind-the-scenes fact for you.
I was going to say that's why I ask you questions, trying to get some behind-the-scenes knowledge here.
And Jamil today called him one of the more athletic kids we have in the team.
Whoa! Okay.
So now he's the strongest. Let's say one day we get Jamil on here, you can ask him about it. But Jamil called him the most athletic guy we had, which I thought was interesting.
Okay. So you're saying
he is? I mean, if you watch him wrestle,
yeah,
his flexibility, his power, his speed, his conditioning. I mean, he has all the tools to win a national title.
He's been really fun to watch, see his growth. 157, we've kind of had Hayden Hidley, we've had Ed Scott. Those guys kind of man that. But this year, we're kind of seeing a lot of different guys in that lineup at 157. You had two true freshmen going at the scuffle. So 157, you've gotten to see a lot of different guys, a lot of young guys. Everybody's new to the weight here.
Yeah, and news that probably, I think you could tell when you saw him compete, but Jackson Arrington had surgery last week on an injury he had on his shoulder. So we're going to elect to take a medical this year, and we're going to need someone young, new, and exciting to step up and wrestle in that spot. So it's an unfortunate thing for Jackson, but you look at the positives. It gives someone a new opportunity to make a name for themselves here, and and go out and compete. And then, it'll buy Jackson some time to get healthy and have him around for another 2 years. So there's always some positives to some negative situations that we're encountering, but we're not the only team in the country that's going to deal with these kind of situations, and we're going to figure it out. That's the whole point of why you have a long season like this, is you got to figure out who your guy is going to be.
I know Jackson's still around and all that, but I also know he's a pretty big vocal leader in that room. So who else is kind of leading, not, away from your coaching staff? Who's kind of some of the voices this year?
Yeah, and if you look at the better teams we've ever had here in my time, we've always had great leadership. And we've been fortunate enough to have Hayden and Trent cycle through here. When I first got here, Gwiz, he grew into being a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say he was right away, just because of the situation we were thrown at. But and then you fast forward, and a guy like Mock comes
Mm-hmm.
here, and there's always been somebody out there on the forefront. And this year's a little different. We've got a lot of different personalities, but there's leaders across the board. And you look at someone like Vinny Robinson, when game day comes, he is one of the best leaders you could ask for out there. The guy is a true competitor. He does everything he needs to compete at his best. And, you can go all the way up and down. You get a guy like Coy, he might not be the most vocal guy, but he's a leader by example. And then, Jackson was a really good leader, and it still is. It's just, when you're a little compromised, it's hard you got to focus on yourself and do things. And this is what I think makes good teams, is week to week, different guys are stepping up. Isaac Trumbull, his background and what he's doing school-wise and the leadership skills he has is different from Vinny. And how you connect the dots from different personality, I think, defines really good leaders. And we have them. It's just week to week, they're different, depending on who's in the line. Like, for the first couple, basically the first 5 competitions, Isaac wasn't wrestling. So it's hard when you're not on the mat competing. You're still there leading, but it is just a different kind of view that you get from it. So these guys all mature in due time. But yeah, I think a lot of the things that happen here as we hit second semester, leadership behind the scenes is going to be critical.
I think I have to ask you, because we always want to know about that one weight class. Not sure who the starter is. What's going on at 133 right now as we start ACCs?
Well, we were going to try to get clarity this weekend. We brought both guys. Unfortunately, we got waxed with the flu pretty good leading up to it. And so Troy Redding Zach Redding we took Troy and Zach, and then on the way there, Redding, fell ill, so he was unable to wrestle. I thought we were out of the woods with the team being sick. It hit us right as we were coming back from the Ohio State duel, and it just went right into the last couple weeks. But on the way there, Redding, wasn't able to wrestle, so we still got time to figure it out, and we're going to have to hit a tournament or two. And it's going to be tough on our schedule to try to get both guys into a tournament. So it'll be one of those we're going to have to analyze and see and put the best guy we think out there.
Besides winning every ACC match, what's the goal for the second semester for this team leading up to the postseason?
It's a great question. I know you had that one written down. And
I was waiting for that one.
I think, what we've learned from last year is we just want to keep improving every week. And if we can do that as individuals, obviously it's going to help our team. And we want to keep building to when we get to that national tournament, because I really do believe we have multiple guys that can compete to win a national title this year. Historically, you look and you're like, okay, this guy's got a really good shot at winning it. Well, we got multiple guys right now. If they get hot and wrestle at their best, they can win national titles. I wouldn't count Coy out of that conversation. Like I said, after seeing what he's capable of doing and looking at where his competition is and where he's at, he's right in the mix. And then you take guys like Vinny and Isaac, who are right there and have been there. That's a dangerous combination. And then you got a couple other guys that placed at the national tournament, and a freshman that's as good as anyone I've seen in my time as a true freshman. that's dangerous. So if we can get everyone hitting from all cylinders, I think we just want to get better and put as many guys as we can going deep into that NCAA tournament.
ACC action returns Friday night. Virginia is in Reynolds. Are we getting the coaches and ties this year?
Well, I always try to bring my A game. So
Okay.
that's me. You're going to have a conversation with the rest of the staff. I'm not going to sit here and fight behind the scenes about wardrobe. So,
okay. Well, unfortunately, my guy that I fought with, Kevin Jack, no longer around. I was always ripping on him.
You got Coach Kelly now back in the saddle, but
okay, that's true.
I don't see him as a big suit guy either. So,
all right. So we'll see what the coaches debut.
we'll see.
And all that.
And then I don't think Coach Espo is a big suit guy. So,
okay. Any
about X's and O's.
Any new singlets or anything this year?
We're working on one, and we'll always throw one out there for you.
Okay. Just curious.
So if you got any ideas, and I know you're good with social media and art.
I'm trying to branch out with my podcast and maybe getting some fashion podcasts going. So
you can do it.
Pat, great catching up. A lot of excitement coming up. I think fans love it because they know every Friday night there's Wolfpack Duals. So this is the time of year to start paying attention. Duals matter. That's what you always tell me.
They do. They're very important, and it's helped grow everything here at NC State. So we look forward to Reynolds being packed. And if you want to get one of those bobbleheads, you're going to have to be there.
Absolutely. Marketer, Pat Popolizio, come get your Vincent Robinson bobblehead this Friday night. Virginia, Pat, thanks for catching us up. This is another episode of the Pack Mentality Poppins podcast covering NC State wrestling. Until next time, go Pack.